very specific.
Happy days. Brilliant. All right, good afternoon, everyone. We'll just kick off our last session now, which I think is going to be a great one. We've got a fireside chat on the ongoing impact of supply chain disruption on subsea deployments, which has been mentioned throughout the day as one of the big challenges at the moment. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Natalie Bannerman, who's the Deputy Editor with Capacity Media. Over to you, Natalie.
Thanks, James. So good evening, everybody. So we have a really exciting fireside chat, as James mentioned, about the ongoing fiber supply chain crisis. And I am joined by Antti Kankonen. I always like to try and get it right, who is VP of Subsea PLM at Infinera. So we're going to start really at the top here. You know, what are the biggest causes and or trends that have led to the ongoing disruption of the supply chain, in your opinion?
Yeah, so there's a number of trends that are leading to the current situation. First of all, the main shortage is on semiconductors. And on the demand side, there's this increasing use of semiconductors in various classes of products like intelligent, like cell phones and automobiles and all kind of household appliances. So all those things have been driving up the demand. And then we got the COVID issue, which started hitting the supply. And I would claim that to start with, the supply side of semiconductors wasn't prepared to the increasing demand. And now the COVID further hurt the supply side. So that's kind of led to this imbalance in supply and demand. From a telecom supplier point of view, the COVID is a kind of different than for many other industries. In other industries, both demand and supply are hurting because of COVID. But in our industry, the supply of the components is hurting, but the demand is growing because everybody is working online, people are moving online, demand is actually higher than it's ever been. Right. And we got kind of both sides from the COVID. Supply was hurt, demand went up. So I think these are the trends. Fundamentally, it's a question of insufficient capacity in the supply chain for semiconductors.
Yeah. I mean, fiber, of course, affects many areas of the telecoms ecosystem, but honing in specifically on Subsea, what effect is that having on that particular sector?
Yeah, so Subsea has been having a particularly difficult time because our projects are very complicated. Just this week we announced the largest ever cable upgrade with AAE1. Largest amount of capacity ever in one subsea cable update. And AAE1 touches 19 different countries. And you can kind of imagine what kind of logistical problems you have, especially under COVID conditions, when you need to operate in multiple countries. And a subsea cable, by definition, always has two countries involved. So we've had a lot of issues in the logistics. You can't travel to places. You have to find alternative ways of getting things done. And then we have all the same general issues as the rest of the industry, where we have problems delivering equipment because of the limited supply of semiconductors. Us, Infinera, we are in a lucky position that we are very highly vertically integrated. We actually own our own semiconductor fab. So we're actually the only telecom equipment supplier who has their own fab. So obviously we can totally control the supply of our fab. So our transponders, which are highly vertically integrated, are actually not suffering too bad from the supply chain issues. But then in order to make the transponders work, you need a chassis, you need power supplies, and also we do ship a lot of equipment for multiplexing switching that needs the various components, and of course we are impacted in those areas. We are impacted just like anybody else.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that does segue quite nicely into my next question. You know, how are vendors, I suppose, like yourselves, kind of mitigating the effects of this shortage? You mentioned having your own facilities, but you know, overall, are there any kind of processes that you're having to undertake?
There's a couple of things. Some have been applied which have an immediate effect. So I'll get back to this project delivery in environments where we deliver systems that need to be installed in multiple countries. And during the COVID, and still today, there are places where they don't let you travel in, or the travel is very difficult. And we've done things like just totally operating online, found a partner in the country, then agree with that partner that they will do the installation for us. Then we train the partner online, and we've done installations so that the partner does all the physical work at site, and we just help them online. And it's been surprisingly, certainly it's been painful, but still surprisingly successful. We have delivered projects, so it's been an interesting experience. And another interesting aspect of operating doing installations so that the experts are all online. Another interesting aspect is that the net effect to the costs has been a cost reduction, because our teams don't need to travel, and we can in many places enjoy lower cost base with the labor that we source locally. Not everywhere, but in many places we can enjoy lower costs with the labor that we source locally. So that's been kind of an innovative way of mitigating problems immediately. Then many other kind of actions we're taking are such that they don't kind of provide immediate relief. Like we are deepening our supplier relationships, having a lot more meetings, forming strategic relationships. It helps some, but it's more kind of setting us up for the future, to have better forecasting, to have better, tighter relationship with the suppliers, so that we are able to better control this type of situations in the future. And other aspect, which is kind of mid-term relief, is redesigning products so that we don't use components which are at shortest supply and then try to use something that's more easily available.
Right.
Respinning a circuit board takes multiple months, so it's not an immediate relief, but it is a relief. And then on the process side, we've always had a process where every product we design, we have a score for that product which tells what percentage of components in that product can be dual sourced. In the past, for time to market reasons, sometimes for cost reasons, we've kind of cut a little bit corners in trying to achieve as high score as possible. But I would say that going forward, and no, this doesn't help for the current situation, but going forward, I think you are going to see more emphasis being put to dual sourcing everything you need to build your product, so that if one source of supply is going down, you still have the other option for building your product. And we've always been very heavily concentrating on vertical integration, which I already mentioned, because when you are vertically integrated, you have total control of or more control of your supply chain. And that's always been a central part of our strategy, and I think after this experience, it'll get even more emphasis in our operation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've just noticed as well that the screen for Slido is on behind me, so if anybody does want to submit a question, please do so. I think we will just jump to the question that's just come in, which is, will this virtual or remote installation continue when travel is fully back to normal?
I think we'll find a hybrid model where we do more online. I don't think we want to get to like current model where you don't meet the partner at all. Like everything happens online. I don't think we quite go there. But definitely we have learned to do everything online, and the kind of percentage of activities which require kind of face-to-face meetings, it's definitely going to go down. So there's going to be more and more kind of operations where we just do things online. We've now learned to do things online. Like I personally am kind of, this is the one kind of silver lining for me in COVID. I had an apartment, I live in Boston, I had an apartment in Sunnyvale for 10 years. And when the COVID started, I managed to get rid of my apartment there, and I don't see any need to kind of have an apartment there anymore, because our company is totally online now.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna see a lot more kind of activities moving online, and less activities needing face to face. But there's still going to be activity. It's like all difficult negotiations, sales meetings, that type of things, they are always better face to face. If the customer agrees to meet me face to face, I always want to meet face to face.
Yeah, absolutely. Hybrid is the way forward.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question then, of course you don't have a crystal ball, but I think everybody would want to know your opinion on how long this situation is likely to last. Any predictions?
Yeah, so I think like we had a fundamental kind of undersizing of the semiconductor supply chain even without COVID, and COVID just kind of made it worse. Increasing semiconductor capacity is very slow, takes a long time. There are huge investments going into this area. Samsung, Intel, and TSMC, for example, have announced about 50 billion of investments into fabs in the United States alone over the next 3 years roughly. And then there are big kind of governments have woken up to this situation. There's a legislation called CHIPS Act in the United States trying to make it through the way through the legislative process, which is a $50 billion investment into building more chips. Europe is trying to get same kind of legislation, and interestingly also 50 billion. So all these are 50 billion. The three manufacturers are building 50 billion worth of fabs, 50 billion from US government, 50 billion from European governments. But all these, they will help in 3-4 years' time. In the shorter term, the current semiconductor supply chain is increasing its capacity, but I am afraid that before situation is normal, it's sometime in first half 2023 that we can start talking about normalcy in the supply chain.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and kind of dovetailing from your point about all those factories popping up, how do we kind of avoid this situation from repeating? Is diversification the only solution here?
Yeah, I think the supply chain had become too concentrated. I think that's gonna definitely change, and no matter what kind of cost reductions are presented, one generation will remember this, and then the next generation will make the same mistakes again. But like for some time now, people will remember that even if the most cost-efficient thing is to centralize everything into one place, it's not a good thing if you meet a crisis like COVID. And I think decentralization is definitely going to happen. So I think, and then all these like processes, like I talked about the score, where we build products that can be every part of the product can be dual sourced, or as many parts as possible. Every company, I'm sure, is increasing these type of processes. So I'm sure for some time to come, I don't know, 10 years, 20 years, until people forget all about this, we will be more resilient against this kind of crisis repeating.
Yeah, absolutely. One final question then for me. You did mention it a little bit earlier on, how it's disproportionately affecting some of the kind of smaller players in the space, versus the bigger ones with the more buying power. What advice would you be giving to the kind of smaller telcos who are facing this crisis in terms of what they can do and how they can move through it?
So I think it's the key, like we, towards our suppliers, we are deepening the relationships, insisting on meetings, insisting on kind of strategic partnerships, and I think us towards our customers, we have the same discussions, we are forging the same alliances with them. So I think this will also kind of teach that it's the relationship and the trust and the ongoing partnership rather than jumping from one supplier to another, it's important, and I think we're going to see more of that going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. That was my last question. I think we covered that really well. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Much appreciated.
Thank you, Antti. Thank you, Natalie. That was a really interesting and quick-fire session, so thank you both for that. I think there's some drinks receptions happening upstairs, sponsored by China Mobile, so I'll let everyone get off and have a drink. Thank you all, and we'll see you tomorrow.